For a closer look at the terror attack in Australia, let's speak to Dr. Josh Roose, political sociologist and professor of politics at Deakin University. Dr. Roose, thank you for making the time to speak with us. Now, this was an incredibly shocking attack at Sydney's Bondi Beach. What does this location and targeting of the Jewish celebration tell us about the attacker's motives?
Not only is Bondi Beach an incredibly symbolic site because it encompasses effectively the best of Australian beach culture. It's world famous. It's a place where people gather. They gather to celebrate and to share experiences. And so for that reason, attacking this particular site is designed to undermine that sense of safety and community. But then attacking a Jewish celebration at the site is a direct attack on Australia's Jewish communities. It is designed to not only sow fear amongst our Jewish population, but also to send a message that they can be reached anywhere, and that this is a part of a much larger global struggle and an attack on the Jewish people.
This was quickly labelled a terror attack. How will this impact investigations into this tragedy?
Yeah, it's certainly unusual to label an attack as terrorist and designate it as a terrorist attack almost immediately. And that then equips the police with significant powers, not only to detain and to hold people for longer under more arduous circumstances, but also to access devices, to speak to social media companies, and to gain access to material. It's an incredibly important set of resources that are now available to police to uncover not only what occurred with this particular small group, like the father and the son, but also their potential linkages to other attackers.
Dr. Roose, acts of violence like this, especially gun violence, are extremely rare in Australia. There are gun laws in the country, but the government has now confirmed it will be reviewing them. How did this all happen? And are the gun laws really the problem?
Now, Australia has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, and those laws have been put in place in the aftermath of a massacre back in 1996. What you can't do in Australia is buy a weapon that fires on a semi-automatic cycle, for example. And so you would have noticed in the shooting that a lot of it was shoot and reload, and so on. That actually, in an unfortunate sense, actually prevented a lot more deaths. Whilst he had access to weapons and he was cycling through them, it prevented many more deaths, the fact that he couldn't access those semi-automatic firearms. What we know, though, is that there are tens of thousands of hunters, tens of thousands of farmers, tens of thousands of Australians who use weapons for a number of reasons, including sporting shooting associations. And it's critical that we don't rush into any new gun laws without adequate evidence to inform the future direction of them. This is an attack where this person's accessed these weapons legally. So there's got to be a look at how he was able to do so, particularly with any potential linkages to extremist organisations. But the actual gun laws themselves are actually quite sturdy and have been fit for purpose for a prolonged period of time.
How do attacks like these, especially aimed at a religious group, affect the wider Australian community?
This is about not only attacking the Jewish community, but it's about driving a wedge. It's about polarising society, dividing one Australian against another. It's about seeking to effectively create a binary us versus them mentality between our Muslim communities and wider Australia. It's been positive to see that community leadership across the religious and political spectrum have universally condemned this attack. We are a polarised society at the moment, particularly in the aftermath of the Gaza conflict and mainstream political politics and populism. However, what we're seeing here is a significant condemnation across the spectrum, from our far-right populists through to our far-left populist politicians. And so to that extent, if anything, there's hope and some optimism that this could bring us closer together.
Do you think the government has done enough to tackle anti-Semitism? What steps need to be taken to prevent further social division?
Yeah, the government has been put on notice for a couple of years now, since the aftermath of October 7, that by our Jewish communities, that more needs to be done. On October 8, we saw Islamist extremists parading around our Sydney Opera House, a really important symbolic site, yelling, "Gas the Jews, F the Jews," and so on. Some really abhorrent language. And that has been allowed to fester. And there's been a level of tolerance for anti-Semitism in its various guises, particularly that extreme left conflation with Islamist anti-Semitism around the conspiratorial nature of Israel and the Jewish people and some form of power that they believe that they hold in society and so on. And their framing of Zionists as terrorists and so on. They've been quite proactive in targeting our neo-Nazis, and we have a small group of them who are not only prolific but hate-filled and very active, and they've targeted them quite well. What they haven't done is delve into the deeper embedded anti-Semitism in our university system, in our wider community, particularly on the left spectrum of politics. And that still needs to be done, and it needs to be done vigorously.
So how does government and media messaging affect public sentiment, especially in the wake of such a horrific terror attack?
Yeah, it's critical that we see strong political leadership. The media have come out and actually done a fantastic job in the aftermath of this, and they're asking the right questions in the Australian context about what the government have done to prevent this and what needs to be done going forward. And that level of media scrutiny will hold the government to account to an extent. What the government haven't done is demonstrate the level of political leadership necessary to stand up to a very small but very vocal minority who are steering an extreme anti-Semitic sort of framing and worldview on the political left. And that intersection of that with Islamist groups, and of whom a small but not inconsequential number live within Muslim communities. And that's a conversation that has to be had. And at the moment, unfortunately, it's being embedded in frameworks of, allowing people freedom of speech on the one hand, but also a little bit of concern about offending sensibilities. And we need to have those conversations, because if we don't have them openly and rigorously, they're going to be had anyway, and it's going to create deeper resentment in our community.
Thank you, Dr. Roose, for sharing your insights with us. We were speaking to Dr. Josh Roose, political sociologist and associate professor of politics at Deakin University.